If I told you guys that I was balancing my phone on a phone, would you believe me? Why is the anytime I work on available nosferatu it takes forever to make? I have no idea, which is why we still gotta upload some Halloween videos. Like I said before, hopefully that video should come out this week. Anyways, the name Tim Burton is synonymous with a lot of different things, including horror and stop-motion animation and blockbuster movies. A ton of aspiring filmmakers aspire to be like Tim Burton, not because of their love for the Gothic, but more because he has a very distinguishable voice and style. So even if fans are unfamiliar with a TV show or film, they can easily identify whether Tim Burton was involved or not. Many audiences know that he worked for Disney for a short while, but they're unaware about how he got the job. You see, his first short film, Stalk of the Celery Monster, caught the eye of some top animators, which helped to kickstart his career. Despite the success of the film, however, it's now faded into obscurity, even though it's a milestone moment in his career. And because this is my YouTube channel, we're gonna, of course, talk about it. So this is it. Stalk of the Celery Monster. Ooh. Although it may sound like a bit of an insult, it's clear that Stalk of the Celery Monster was designed as part of a school assignment because it combines so many mediums in just one short. The film begins in black and white and showcases a frightened woman tied to a chair. A mad science-like figure emerges, and the woman tries to scream, but the audience is met with complete silence. The doctor then welcomes his assistant, a giant monster dressed in a white cloak. For the first time, the audience hears noises in the form of the woman's whimper and the sound of a fearsome drill. After a short while at work, the doctor and assistant stop. The scene then changes to color and shows that the doctor is actually a dentist who is ready to welcome his next patient. Just from this brief description, it's clear that Tim Burton was keen to make a small comedic horror film that would impress his superiors. The film was first produced in 1979 when Tim Burton was still a student at the California Institute of the Arts, and although the film is teeming with sharp pencil sketches and jarring movements, Burton's style is present even at this very early stage in his career. The majority of the film is void of any color or sound, making it seem like a sinister story, but at the very last moment, Burton completely alters everything and proves to be to the audience that there's nothing to be scared of. It's very reminiscent to something like The Nightmare Before Christmas, even though all he did was animate in that movie. He didn't really make that movie, but whatever. Which also uses our dark motif in a more jovial way. This disjointed pencil animation sparked a lot of interest from his fellow classmates, and news of Tim Burton's offbeat short traveled to the Walt Disney Animation Studios. Even though the film was largely incomplete and in some cases a tad tough, the company did not hesitate to offer the student a desirable internship. Thus, it could be argued that The Stalk of the Celery Monster is the film that started Burton's journey in the ever-competitive entertainment industry. Even when partnered with some of the biggest companies in the world, internships, well, they're never really fun at all. Typically, creators are forced to spend months shadowing senior people until they get bored and shuffle on to their next opportunity. But not Tim Burton. No, not Tim Burton. You see, as soon as he joined Disney in the early 80s, he was thrown into the deep end, working as an animator, a storyboard artist, a graphic designer, an art director, and a concept artist. That's 5 things. And not to mention, of course, he also had the chance to work on some of the studio's more elusive films. An example being, I didn't know this, by the way, fun fact, he actually helped clean up the animation for The Fox and the Hound in 1981. Which that movie will be later classified as like a Disney classic. The following year, he acted as, albeit an uncredited, animator on the movie Tron, which, we'll get to that one day. And also, he did submit some character designs for the Black Cauldron, but they were unfortunately rejected, which, if Tim Burton got a hold on the Black Cauldron, how would the movie be better is my main question. Anyways, Tim Burton had the chance to work firsthand on some of the industry's biggest films, but he still wasn't really satisfied. So eventually Disney caved in and let him make his own short films, like produce some of his own short films, both of which were viewed as strange and traumatizing, and of course, Frankenweenie. What else? There's like 2 versions of Frankenweenie, by the way, but the one I'm referring to is the 1984 one, And apparently that was the last straw for Disney because one of Disney's biggest complaints about his work specifically was that it was too scary, which is so funny because some Disney movies have scary stuff in them sometimes, like Black Cauldron. Anyways, some may feel like extremely jealous of his opportunity and perhaps argue that he wasn't very grateful for this foot in the door, like being with Disney. However, it appears that Tim Burton has always had a revolving door relationship with Disney. Obviously, Alice in Wonderland and Dumbo and anything else he's made with Disney. Because he's been fired from them 5 times since college. In an interview with the BBC in 2012, Tim Burton argued that his work has never been scary. Bullshit! I don't think I've ever made any scary movie, ever. Even if I've tried to, I've never made a scary movie. You know, I grew up on Disney movies, and I always thought that that's what partially made Disney movies. From Snow White on, they've always dealt with some scary imagery. Tim Burton has always had like a really strained relationship with, Disney. At times, the studio deemed his work too scary for young audiences, and at other times, they couldn't help but to like sing his praises. Thus it comes to no surprise that Tim Burton has always publicly criticized the studio a number of times, and a lot of fans may be wondering why he continued to even work at Disney if he was so unhappy. However, it's very important to mention that back in the 80s, Disney had a lot of power over the movie industry, so dropping everything to become an independent filmmaker wasn't as much of a viable option as it is these days with the advent of streaming and social media. Considering how Disney treated Tim Burton throughout his extensive career, it seems strange that the studio decided to hire him in the first place. Stalker the Selling Monster was far from perfect in terms of animation, and some may argue that it is in serious need of polishing. However, it's very clear to see that Burton had a style even as a young man, something that is quite rare. Every creative student believes that they have what it takes to make a mark on the industry, mostly because they require that confidence to feel comfortable sharing their work. However, it quickly becomes clear that the ambition is never enough, and creatives need something to help them stand out and attract new audiences. There's no denying that, Burton has a level of flair, so it seems really odd that Disney wanted to hire him just to make him a cog in a much larger machine. Arguably, the whole point of this 90-second film is that it captures the patient's fear of the dentist, meaning that it's supposed to be scary. Thus, the fact that Disney would, go on to criticize him for his ability to evoke fear in an audience seems unbelievably ironic. Overall, though, Burton's odd bond with Disney is so alluring to fans because the filmmaker seems to be one of the only people who's willing to stand up to them, yet it didn't really impact his success. Not only has he managed to enjoy a wealth of recognition in his own terms, but a lot of other creatives have become inspired by his ability to follow his own path. These days, Stalk of the Selling Monster is seen as a niche relic, which is a shame. For many years, it was actually considered lost media until it was uncovered in 2006 and broadcasted on Spanish television. It's now safely tucked away in the Library of Congress, and hopefully securing its impact forever. But also, fans must remember that this short film is largely still missing, so technically it is still lost media, which does bring up a lot of questions about its location and validity. Yet fans should always view this film with a sense of wonder because it transformed one of the world's most offbeat filmmakers from a simple student to a groundbreaking artist.